All right, how's everybody doing tonight? Okay, I'm going to extend your restoration photo assignment through Friday, if I have no objections. There's only 2 people that submitted there so far, and so I'm extending it to Friday. I'm going to show the 2 that submitted so far in the panoramic, and so you have till Friday to finish it and upload your restoration photos. But let me show you what we got so far. Really good job. And let me open this up here. Okay, who was it that did this one? All right, so here's a before photo. A lot of cracks and creases. May I ask who this is?
No relation.
No relation, just a photo you found?
Damaged photo that I thought was located.
Okay, awesome. And then I'm going to go ahead and go next. And there's the after product. Quite a bit different. Let's ask, first of all, I guess, let me go back to the previous. So to get rid of the cracks in the photo, what did you use? What tool did you use mainly?
Mostly the clone stamp.
The clone stamp tool, okay. And on that one, guys, when you're using a clone stamp tool, make sure, and by the way, great job. When you're using a clone stamp tool, make sure and get as close to the source of the clone that you're wanting to stamp. If you like, if I was to clone over here and do an Alt key and come over here, it wouldn't look as good. It would look okay here. But as I got started getting down here, what happens is wherever you Alt key it or Control key it, it's going to source it in that same proximity of how you originally sourced it, if that makes sense, from your original mouse. So if my mouse is over here and my cracks over here and I'm wanting to source it over here, it's going to keep going down. So make sure when you source your clone that you're cloning it as close to, and you have to re-clone it every time too as you're going down. So that's what takes time, is clone it, clone it, clone it, clone it, because you get different variations of color, right? Would you say that's the truth? It takes different variations of color. The other thing you need to make sure to do is choose a correct brush size. You don't want the brush size to be too large, because if it's too large, then it doesn't look right in the end. And then after you're through with taking all the cracks out as best you can with the clone stamp tool, what did you use anything to smooth it?
Some of the background I kind of use a soft brush. With
You did use a soft brush? Okay.
And then I use some spot healing.
Spot healing. Did you use a blur tool at all, or no?
I did use a blur for some of the blades that are actually starting to get it back.
Right, and that makes sense. So you use some blur tool over here, clone stamp here.
Got cut out some of the cracks, so I used it to work a little more here out.
Okay, gotcha. So clone stamp tool, blur colorization brush, and then here's the end result. About how much time did you spend, you think? About an hour. But now you've been doing this for a while. This isn't new, right? Just let students, seriously though, let students know that you've been doing this a while.
Yeah, I'm for graphic design.
Okay. So yeah, he's been doing this for a while. So if you're a beginner student doing this, he said an hour and a half, more than likely 5 to 6, 7, 8 hours probably. Would you agree with that?
I went through it pretty quick. There's some things on there that are probably not perfect. Like there's still a rip on her sleeve, but I thought it was a fold.
Oh, okay.
Look at it.
Yeah.
It was like a little fringe thing, but it's
Right.
crack.
Well, great job. Awesome inspiration for those still have not turned theirs in yet. And don't feel bad if you've not turned it in. This always happens on this one. So here, who did this one here? Okay. So a really good one to choose. Is this a relation, somebody you know, or just a photo you chose? Okay, cool. Google. So a lot of, wear and tear over the years. But the central part of the character, pretty good quality, actually. Not bad. So let's see what she did with the post after. Really cool. Really good job. So let's talk about what tools you use to get rid of or to clean up and restore. Let's focus just on this stuff here right now. What'd you use? Clone stamp. A little bit of blur. And again, that's pretty tedious, right? Because you're starting out here on the edge and working your way in ever so lightly, right? So now when you get into the face here, right over his eyebrow here. That's pretty tricky. Again, did you use clone stamp on that?
Yeah, I just made the brush smaller.
Made the brush very small, much smaller, as she used a clone stamp here. Same in the hat, I'm guessing here, and then over here. And then you said you did use some blur
Yeah, I
to
blur.
merge it together.
Yeah, over that left eye. I was trying to blur it a little bit more.
Okay, I see right here.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
there.
Good. And about how long did it take you to do it?
Not long.
Not long.
I
But
did
again-
for advanced Photoshop.
Right. You've been doing it a while as well. So these are great examples to show before and after for you guys to look at that are just, still in the midst of yours. But again, it's tedious. It takes time. And that's all I can say about it. It's just going to take time to do. Yes. Did you have yours?
Actually sent two, but-
It didn't. Did you just send them or they've been there?
I sent it.
Yeah, just resend them, and we're going to look at them again after we come back from break. So if you don't see them on here, resend them and just follow those instructions and make sure you see them on there. If they don't show up, shoot me an email with the pictures, and I'll put them up here for you. Okay. But great job, both of you. And so by Friday, does that sound good to everybody? You think you can get done by Friday? You think? Okay, cool. So let's talk about spring break next week. I did extend this week's assignment, which is going to be going over panoramic. It's not going to be due this Sunday. It's going to be due the 13th, which is the Sunday after, at the end of your spring break, I believe. I did extend it. So, and then again, that one's going to take a little bit for some of you just on getting the photos you need for the panoramic. So it's probably good to have an extra week to play with that one. And I think I emailed everybody that the panoramic I'm going to show you how to do tonight is old school panoramic. All of you have contraptions, I call them, or filters or automated panoramic tools within your camera. I'm going to show you how I was taught, and a friend of mine in college, we went to Drury College at the time. It's called Drury University. We were in a graphics program together. What he did was he had a Nikon camera, took about 3,500 photos over a summer month. He was a swimmer for the campus. And so on his off time on the weekends, he would take photos of the entire campus. And he was hired to take those photos and do a panoramic. And back then, you had to stitch them together manually and then put them together in Flash and put them on a website, which took about a 4 or 5 month process, somewhere around there, for him to do that. But the key to panoramic is that your camera's at the same height as you're taking the photos. All right. Number one. Number two, that it's steady, not just the same height, but it has to be steady. So if you do have a tripod, for some of you, might be worth using during the panoramic assignment. If you don't have a tripod, I've done them without a tripod. Just make sure you're leaning against a tree or your car or something to where your hand is steady and it's at the same level from left to right. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But those two tips right there is going to help you a lot, because when you're doing panoramics, like my friend that did college, he would do a 360 panoramic vertically or horizontally, and then he would also do one vertically about 20 times in one spot where the tripod was, to where when you looked at it online, regardless of where you went with the mouse on the site in the room, you could see every crevice of that room with that shot, regardless of where you stood or where you clicked on. And the way he did it was, and again, this all had to be manually done back then. They have software that does it for you now. But like if you want to go into a door of one of the commons or one of the dorms, you would click on the door and then it would go into the hallway, and then you could click on the floor or you could click on the doors to go into those doors or down the hallway further and further. But again, most of your cameras have built-in automated ways to do panoramic. I'm going to show you how to do it by stitching them together left to right, using your camera and a steady hand or a tripod to do it. We're going to look at some good examples tonight as well of how it's done. So without further ado, let's do that. Jump right into the panoramic notes and examples we've got. So first one is this panoramic, what it is. What is panoramic? Let me blow this up a little bit. And this is the first link in our notes in week 8. So when you see before you like a beautiful scene of, say you're driving to Galena, you're driving to, you're in Colorado, or you're anywhere here in Rockford, you see some eye-catching sight and you really want to, get the whole breadth of that view, that's where panoramic helps. That's a solution for you. Because unless you have an expensive wide angle lens, which most of us don't, panoramic's going to help you fit that image in the shot by stitching together multiple images. Now, to resolve this, the second paragraph says it's possible for anyone to take several photographs, merge them together to simulate a wide angle lens. Another reason for taking panoramic is it's the more pictures you take that are stitched together, the more pixels and more detail is given. And by the way, the end of your assignment this next 2 weeks, most of you will have a length of a picture. It'll be at least probably anywhere from 54 inches to 104 inches wide, or more is average for a panoramic. Not very high, but very wide. And by the way, you can, just to kind of let you know, at the end of this, we will be putting, when you guys come back in 2 weeks, we'll be putting your panoramics, printing them out and putting them on 11 by 17. And I'll show you how to mount them together on a blackboard to where you can show them in your house or basement or wherever you want to put it. I'll show you a real nice way to print out your photos and use black matte board, which some of you might have used before, or framing board. Show you how to do that with 3M spray glue and put it together to make it look nice. And that's the way a lot of professional photographers do when they're showcasing their photos, is they'll print out their photos, use 3M spray and put it on a nice matte board and put it up on like on a stencil or on the wall while they're showcasing it for a client. And I'll show you how to do that. But to take it a step further, you can also take your final product once you're finished and print it out in like poster size roll. It's about $20 to get poster size. What I mean by poster size, at least 36 inches wide up to 44 inches wide. It looks like a movie poster basically. And you basically can print that out landscape or portrait. A lot of people think panos are landscape only, but we'll see some examples tonight of panoramics that are actually vertical in nature as well. It can be portrait and also landscape. The majority of panos are landscape in just the structure of them, like landscape views. Cityscapes is one. But there are a few examples that we'll look at tonight of portrait type of panoramics. So basic approach to panoramic is you do not need a special camera, yay, a tripod, or a panoramic head. However, there is a need to hold it still, the camera still, as I mentioned earlier, and to keep the camera level while you're shooting the photographs in succession. So you'll take the photograph, turning to the right or left to take the next photograph. Again, depending upon whether you're right or left-handed, will depend upon if you go pan left, pan right. Really doesn't matter, whatever's comfortable for you. And here's the key right here. I put up on the board 10%. This article has 25 to 50% overlap. What it's talking about is if you start here on the left side of, we'll pretend this is like the Rock River here, and you're taking a photo of it on the bank of the Rock River. And we'll say this is photo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the dots represent the overlap. I put in here 10%. That's what I generally do, but you can go as much as 25, 50%. I generally recommend 10, 15%. It's not going to hurt to go over. And one of the things you want to watch for when you're doing the overlap is make sure there's no pole, like telephone pole in the overlap, right? Like right on the line, because that's going to be hard for Photoshop to stitch it together post-session when we put this all together. We're also going to be using an online tool, by the way, called Dermeander, which is an online stitching tool. So just make sure there's no pole or tree that's right in the middle of that dotted line, because that can make a big problem. Does that make sense? So no overlapping structure in the overlap line. So 10 to 15, 25% of overlap on each one of the image, starting left and right. Make sure your camera stays steady. You're not going to move your camera from here to here to here each time. It just stays in one place, and you're just turning it from left to right to take the photo. Okay, now as you do that, naturally what's going to happen, you don't see it with your eye. What's going to happen with that panoramic is the circular part of the earth is going to show up depending on how long that panoramic is, how wide that panoramic is. And that's where the stitching comes in. Because it's not just as simple as taking a photo, splicing it together in Photoshop, and you're done. It's not as simple as that. Because of the curvature of the earth, there's some other components to it as well when it comes to stitching together panoramics. And so again, left to right or right to left, whatever you're more comfortable with. I have a picture of a tripod, but you can do it standing still. And then succession, 10% to 15, 25% overlap. Just make sure there's no structure in the overlap. Or corner of a building would be an example, a pole, a tree, a fence line, a branch, just to name a few examples. So you try to imagine that the camera is on a tripod. So if you're not going to use a tripod, you are the tripod. Personally, when you're doing a lot of panoramics, which I've done in the past, it's best to use one just because you get tired of holding the camera. But for what you're doing for this class, you technically don't need to go out and buy a tripod just to take, 3 or 4 sets of panoramics. If you're going to be taking photos though from here on out, which most of you are, it'd be a good investment to get a nice tripod. They're not really that expensive, but again, not a big deal. So try to imagine your tripod, keep it in the same place and not shuffling around. Take as many photographs as needed. Again, 6 to 10 to 12 photos, depending on the width of your panoramic. It says here to take up to 360. We're going to only do this range here, like a 90 degree or 180 degree panoramic. And then the computer software talks about, there's tons of different software. Photoshop has a merge you might have used before. We'll show you what that looks like. In the take home, I have a link to the Demander link that we'll be using in class. It does a good job as well. It's a Microsoft product. And then there's a lot of other ones out as well. The thing is though, to make sure and do it manually and not do the auto thing within your camera to do the panoramic for you. So there are such things, if you've done any videography or video or long shots or a lot of shots within for a video company or you might have seen one of these here, the pan and tilt head. They even have them for video cameras that actually will float. The cameras will actually float as you have like a strap, in the front of you to where the camera will actually float if you're taking camera shots to where it flows nice. And this is just a head on top of a tripod, basically. I've done some work for our church on videography, and we have some really nice video equipment to where we could be interviewing somebody and have looks like a harness apparatus you wear, and the camera just kind of floats, and any movement it makes is very smooth and nice and not real choppy. And so you can have the same type of thing for digital photos as well. You don't need it, it's overkill. But if you're taking a lot of photos all the time, like they are, and like a lot of companies are, like some individuals do, it's probably worth it in the end to have that to save your back and it make the camera shots look a little nicer. So framing it is the same concept, but you're framing something in a more wider format, and you're visualizing something differently than you're normally seeing because it's not just one shot, it's a succession of shots that you're putting together and stitching them together for the end result. And so that's the notes. I want to look at now some examples here of panoramics. The first one is this here, 20 great stitch panoramic examples. So we're going to look at these a little one by one. and talk about them. And let me blow it up just a little bit. Okay, so this is a valley kind of a city, and it's got some fog there in the early morning as the sun's coming up, and beautiful panoramic, nice time of the day. The sun's kind of glistening over the treetops, and this is something you can't do with just one shot, one frame with a camera. That's where the beauty of panoramics come in, and this one's a succession of shots, from left to right or right to left, with it finally stitched together. And when you take the photos initially, and they're stitched, and they come out of the stitch, like in Photoshop, the merge and stitch tool, it basically, it's hard to see it on the board right now, but it basically looks like this. If I was to take that representation there and show you what it looks like in post-stitch on Photoshop, and if you were to blow it up like 800%, that would be kind of what it looks like, right? At like 800%. And then you take a marquee tool, and then you crop the nice horizontal piece of it that you want to get this result here. That's one example. Let's look at some more. In fact, I think I'm just going to save clicking around here. I'll blow it this way. Not ideal, but that's okay. Second one is this underwater panoramic, which most of you don't have underwater cameras. Some of you might. But you know, a friend of mine does a lot of trips yearly where they do a lot of underwater shots, and the cameras are really expensive. The lights are really expensive, but you can take panoramics underwater as well. The next one's kind of a fisheye kind of lens panoramic. You might have heard of the term fisheye, possibly. It's a library, as you can see, with a nice panoramic view. Another one of a valley. Here's one of inside of a room. A cityscape. Multiple houses here, people running in the background. A mosque. There's a Grand Canyon shot. Beijing Olympics. This is multiple successions. Stop photo showing what the triple jump, then triple jump. Another one here, the mountain area. Hale Park, sunset. Buenos Aires. Fine Art Gallery. Just a picture of a room, but you can see multiple rooms, multiple sides of the room. Really big shot of a Bridiger C5 Galaxy. Huge, huge plane. World War II Memorial. The Audi TT Quattro race. Now let's look at some from the next link on that page is pulling up Getty Images. Getty Images is a great source for inspiration. You just Google Getty Images, or you can click on the link within the week 8. It does by default, by the way. They did change their search engine. Anytime you search for anything now in Getty, it excludes nudity and that's a good thing. So years ago, that wasn't the case. And so now it does. And so you literally have to look for it to get it. And so it excludes nudity, so you don't have to worry about your kids watching this as you're viewing pictures on Getty Images. Sometimes when I taught high school years ago, I would use Getty Images in my graphics class and pull up images. You know, have them do a search on whatever. They could literally type in whatever, probably, and find nudity. And so that's not the case anymore. By default, it'll filter it out, which is nice. But I love cityscapes. Anybody else like cityscapes? Like when you're driving in Chicago, I'm from New York, so like going into New York from the bridge, any one of the bridges, going in from the Statue of Liberty into New York on a ferry. Cityscapes is always fascinated me. And so let's look at a few shots here of some cityscapes. Here's New York City. Got to show that. That's where I'm born. And so great cityscape New York is. San Francisco has beautiful cityscape. If you've not been there, it's worth going just to see the cityscape. And the way it works in Getty is you don't have to pay for these images. You can set up an account, a free account if you want to get what's called open source or royalty-free images. But companies do, as you can see, pay for images. Like this cityscape of New York goes in upwards of a 300 DPI image at 5,125 pixels by 3,417 pixels for $575. Now, the way it works is Getty gets a piece of that. The photographer gets a piece of that in some of these cases. Sometimes the photographers will sell Getty the entire image, and then Getty gets all of it. And so it just depends on the photographer and the Getty how they work things out. But if you do sign up an account, you can add to your board all these images. You can embed on a website this image. They will all have this little Getty Images logo, though, just so you know. Or you can download a comp photo to your computer for like basic layout and design type of stuff if you're playing around with stuff. And so that's kind of nice. So there's New York. This view here, we'll go to the comp of this one here to show you what the comp photo looks like. We'll look at the rest of them in normal view. I just want to show you what this looks like. Okay, so comp photo is nice that you can blow it up, look a little bit, have a little bit more view. Granted, you have to put up with the logo in there, the watermark, but that's okay. So as you can see, all these, beautiful cityscapes. We'll download this. I like this one here. It's kind of at night. We'll download that one, look at it. I want to sign into this computer. Okay, so this one can either be taken, more likely this one's on land. The only reason I say that is, if you can notice over here in the lower left corner, you actually see the edges of the rocks on the beach here that they're standing in. So more likely this is on land. If this was taken, it's been blown up, so it's pretty pixelated there. But anyway, you get the gist of the length of it, or the length and width of the image. This one is actually fairly has a fairly good height to it. A lot of your panoramics don't have as much height. They just have the width and not the height, which is really common in panoramics. So we'll go on down here. This one here is a nice one too. This one actually took slowed down the shutter speed. The only reason I know that is you'll notice the lights of the highway here running on the edge of the water are all blurred together, which means more than likely they slowed down the shutter speed and not use any flash, just the natural lighting around that camera at the time, which I think is really pretty, and makes it stand out a little bit more. Now we're getting into some normal type of panoramics. Normal, you'll notice the height of these are not real tall, and the width is definitely much than the height, much more, higher number than the height. And again, anywhere from 6 to 12 to 20 images left and right, depending on the overlap. As you saw in the reading earlier, up to 50%, photographers choose up to 50%, which you can do. I normally stay around the 15 to 20, 25%, myself. And the reason I do that is just so I won't fall on any structures that I talked about earlier, like the poles or the lines in the scenery or whatever the case may be. This one here is kind of cool. Here, it's getting it from a distance actually, and you can actually see a lot of different land structures and housing and some of the sky. This one here is more of a kind of a, you know, up close, whole bunch of birch trees, but really beautiful flowers in the background. You wouldn't really think that'd be a panoramic, but I think it looks pretty cool. Nice one of outdoor panoramic, desert, another outdoorsy. So the cool thing about Getty, by the way, I just searched for the word panoramic, but when you click on panoramic, it will give you other choices that people have chosen automatically. Like say a popular one piece of people have chosen is panoramic city, just to show you what you can look at. And I do recommend looking at a number of panoramics prior to taking your own, just to get inspiration. That's what I do a lot of times anyway. Make sense? They do have a choice in here, panoramics too. They do have an app, by the way. I'm not going to show you, but they do have an app for iPhone and Androids both. That's really cool. And what it does is it has this creative side to it, that when you go to the creative side, you can search for images by different moods that you're in, whatever, and then it'll bring up, like here's active, you know, and it'll bring up a whole bunch of images of you don't want to work out, right? Which I don't like to work out. So I have to get inspired sometimes. So I can look at people working out and go, okay, maybe I should work out, right? And so, or any type of ideas that you're needing, you can type that into Getty and get that inspiration you're needing. Does that make sense? Okay. I do a lot of logo work still for companies, and to get inspiration a lot of times I'll go to Getty Images or I don't like going to Google just because there's other stuff in there. So Getty is literally just professional photographers' images, and that's it. Okay. That's all you're going to get. Not to say Google's bad, but you're going to get a better search result, right, for images at a place like this. But you can search for not only creative stuff, but you can search by genre, like editorial news. Like if we go to editorial news, it's voting season. So if you're into journalism and you're doing a report, boom, you go right here. You can see tons of results for you without having to search too much. They've even added here recently a video portion, which are pretty awesome, the videos they have in here. Like 4K videos, what they have. They have up to 4K video selection, which is pretty cool. And they did add last year royalty-free sound tied into pictures. And so what it is you pick your genre over here, and then once you pick your genre, it then ties it into images to match that genre. And again, I like to do that because again, it can kind of spur creative juices by doing that. And so if you're into any of these genres, you can click on those genres, and it has a whole bunch of selections here to choose from and how long it's going to be. And it has other genres you can choose from here while you're in here, like, you know, country, folk, whatever. What's nice about it is you can actually select mood as well. And so when I clicked up and positive here, it has different options here. I can add this to my playlist. I can get more like this, or I can just play that. As soon as it starts up, it'll play. That's it. And then I can go right into view details, and it's going to give me images to tie into that and a little bit about the artist. So they just added that recently. So that's creative and Getty Images. Just remember that. And that will, I've got this picture actually on my wall. This one right here in my media room. This is one of my most favorite images. The story behind this image is these workers worked on one of the high-rise buildings in New York, I believe back in the 30s, late 30s. And this was lunchtime. Men at Lunch is the name of it. And these guys, what's funny about this image is, when you can't really see it from here, I'll see if I can blow it up. This guy here, he's holding an empty whiskey bottle. I'm pointing to it, it's right there. Now, again, I don't know if the photographer said, hey, Joe, hold this bottle. I don't know if that was said or that was just Joe's empty bottle. I don't know. But I always thought that was a really cool image because you got multiple guys eating their lunch, getting a cigarette light from another guy. And this guy over here has just got an empty whiskey bottle. But can you imagine being that high up in the air taking lunch and just like, yeah, another day at work, walk out there, sit down, take a lunch break, and a photographer captured that. That to me is pretty awesome. And so those are the things you can do with photography, right? So Getty Images, recommend that one. Let's see here. So the main thing that I've always found in panoramic that's interesting is my son when he graduated high school, he was a cross country runner, and I wanted to get him something cool for his senior party, which dads can only be so cool anyway. So you don't want to be too cool, or you don't want to be you're kind of like have that balance, right? So I found this photo of him that a friend of mine had taken during a cross country run. He took in Galena, that he took high school photos, and I blew it up and put it on because Don had taken like a succession of photos of Mark running, and I blew it up, stitched them together, put it on a poster, and on the poster at the bottom, I put a saying that's always inspired me, and he heard umpteen times growing up, which was diligence breeds success. It was a college professor of mine that told me that early on in college. And when I was struggling, he would write on my papers when I would make like an F, I remember on a few papers, diligence breeds success. And that kind of spurred me to do better and to finally get an A in that class. But so anyway, I had him running in succession with the wording, diligence breeds success at the bottom of it. And what's cool about it is everywhere he's moved, he's always brought that poster with him. And now he's getting ready to have his first child. And so, I brought it with his house that he just got into. And so I also have a copy in our meeting room at the house. So panoramics, actually, the reason I wanted to share that story was it caught my eye, those pictures of Mark when he was a senior. And that's what I think is important about panoramics is whatever panoramic shot you think of, you might drive by it every day at work, going to work, coming back to work, to home, wherever. It might be a local picture that you're thinking of in your head, a local panoramic scene. Think of something that catches your eye, and that's going to be your panoramic. That's your muse for the next couple of weeks of figuring out angles to take that panoramic. Different angles you thought of, maybe you're driven by this panoramic scene time and time again, but when you get out of your car, you might think of different angles to take it. And so that's going to be the panoramic that kind of is going to help you take a quality photo, I believe, by doing it that way. So, and it also, you'll get, something out of it. So the no end class, except for what we just did tonight, I do want to spend some time though on talking about the take home. And again, next week, no school because of spring break. I've already upped the due date on this to, let's see, March 13th, which is a week from this coming Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? And so you have to the week after break to finish this. And basically what you're going to do is I'll go and click on the file needed and go over that and everything and what I'm looking for. So let me click on this panoramic real quick. All right, so what you're going to basically do, that's already loaded. I'm going to go to the instructions. It says follow the directions in the file needed except for part 3, number 7. So you're not going to do part 3, number 7, which it has you, I believe, you print out the print it out. You're not going to do that. So in fact, I got rid of number 7 altogether. It's not even in there anymore. So first is you'll make a contact sheet of your landscape images. And what I recommend doing is make a contact sheet of each set of images. What I recommend is a set would be one iteration of panoramic shots. So this is a Rock River. This would be one iteration of, this would be one set that you would do a thumbnail of. And then do this 2 more times or 3 more times, whatever you feel more comfortable with. And at least 3 of them, I would say 3 of those, and try to do them in different positions. That way you kind of have different angles to look at. So in that case, if I did 3 of these, I would have 18 images. Each one of my contact sheets would have 6 images. And then I would basically end up choosing which one I like. And the best way to choose it is to go ahead and kind of do the deed with the panoramic to see which one you like the best. And we'll talk about how to do that in a second for you. But most of you don't have Photoshop at home. But in here, we're going to show you how to do Photoshop when you guys come back and to use Photoshop. But the other one you can do, and you don't have to be in here, I already have in the steps here, is this Dermander website. Let me show you what that one looks like. It's a kind of a cool website I found years ago for panoramic shots. What's cool about the Dermander site is you register. I recommend signing up to the site, because once you sign up to the site, it saves your panoramic to where you can share it on social media. And so let's just look at some examples here of some recent ones folks have done. This is kind of cool. And so it can go full screen mode of the panoramic somebody submitted here recently. And it puts down here the dimensions. Right now it's at 512p. I can bump it up to 1024p. Make it a lot crisper image. And then if I want to go back down to where it was, click on that. So that's the kind of stuff, the end result of what it lets you do. So you basically sign up for the site. You click on this create button once you sign up. And then you choose the one panoramic you're doing, which in this case, you guys are doing wide angle. You're not doing 360. So this means this is, to the widest angle you're going to do. You click on that, and then boom, it asks you select the images from your computer. Once you select the images, it creates a panoramic, and then you can embed it. You can share it on social media. You can print it. Pretty cool, right? Totally free too, by the way. This guy keeps it up, has kept it up for about 8 years now. He updated it last year a little bit, and a lot of people haven't heard about it. But it's a cool tool to use. I've used it tons of times for family stuff, weddings. I've showed a lot of photographers this, and they've used it, for low-cost things for weddings. People can do kind of cool stuff with it. So you can look at these examples here. But what's cool about this is you don't have to wait till you come back after break to do the panoramic. You can use the Dermander site once you sign up to do your own panoramic. And then, so say you upload your 3 sets, right? I uploaded my 3 sets of panoramics. Then I'm going to choose from those 3 sets, one of them that I like. And let me go back to the document on that. Wherever it's at. There it is. So you're going to choose the one that you like, and you're going to basically save it, because it allows you even in the Dermander site, it allows you to print it out or save it to your local computer. So what I recommend or have you do is basically save it as 11 by 17. And what we're going to do is have you upload it into your week 8. You'll upload it into your week 8 set. But before you do that, crop the image 17 by 11, save it as a JPEG, upload to week 8. And here's what I want you to do. I tell you just to email that image, because when you email it to this email, like you did for the restore project, it gives me the full image quality of that image. It doesn't tweak it down like a lot of photo sites do. So when you attach the images or the image from the one you chose, the 17 by 11, and save it as JPEG, I get the full JPEG quality of that, and And then I'm going to take that and print it out on 11 by 17 on my Epson printer. And then when you guys come back on the 15th, right, March 15th, we will take that 11 by 17 and I'll have some black mat board I'll bring in from Michael's. If you want to buy some black mat board, shoot me an email and I'll tell you where to get it, what it is I'm getting at Michael's. If you want to buy your own, that's fine. I have some I have to go buy anyway, so I'm going to bring some black mat board, 11 by 17, show you how to put 11 by 17 using 3M spray. I think the one I have here is some offering stuff. It's a Cryon, which isn't as good as 3M. But I'll show you how to do the 3M spray. Spray it onto the 11 by 17, put it on the black mat board and make it look really nice color of your panoramic. That way you can take it home. And I'm not going to keep a copy of that. That's just for you to do. But I've had students do that project before, and then like a year later go, you know, I've done like 100 of those since that project. Because number one, it's so much cheaper than buying like a wooden frame for all your pictures if you can do it yourself, right? Once you learn how to do it. And the only cost you're out of really is a nice printout, which does cost a little bit. I use my printer, but you know, at most 11 by 17 on nice photo quality paper, you know, $8 to $10 more than likely if you shop around. And then the mat board, if you find them on sale at Michael's, which I do, they cost only about $5 to $7 for a nice mat board. And if you have the right tool, like an X-Acto tool, you can kind of size it however you want to, which is what I do. I just buy the big board and then just X-Acto knife it out like I want, and then put it on the black mat board. So I'll show you how to do that, because what's cool about it is not only do you get to bring your panoramic home and be able to put on your wall, but I've had students, like I said, use it for other events in their life after that, like, you know, graduations, weddings. They've given a nice photo. It doesn't have to be panoramic, just any photo you can do this with. And years ago, when I used to do this for a living, we did this all the time when we were showing pictures that we had taken or layouts we had done prior to release of whatever product it was, product line, magazine, whatever it was. And it's a easy way to do it, cheap way to do it. And you can be more creative with it because you're doing it yourself. And so it's not real clean. You get kind of messy when you do it the first time because you get spray on you and stuff like that. But I think it's kind of cool. It's kind of fun to do. And so I think you'll enjoy it. I've had all my students enjoy it over the years, teaching how to do that. And so when you guys come back on the 15th, I will have a printout of your 11 by 17 with the black mat board. When you guys come in, we'll have you come up one at a time. And once I show the first person, I usually have that person help me do the rest of them. Kind of we'll split up and get it knocked out real quick. Then we'll also look at your restoration photos that I've upped the due date on that or back the due date on that till this Friday. And that is it for tonight. So any questions? Anybody going anywhere for spring break? Or everybody have to work like I do? You know, we just don't have to go to school, right?
Going to Denver.
Oh, you're going to Denver. Cool. Get some good. Hey, you get some good panoramics in Denver. My sister lives there. Awesome. Great job. And by the way, did you take the photos? Were you one of them that took the photo with the last event we had?
Yeah, I like sent them to an Eagle.
Yeah. Let me show those real quick before we leave. Yeah. Yeah, I did get them. Yeah, I had a couple. I have a couple in here that are doing a internship for me in photography. They're just taking some photos around campus. Let me show you what they took. This was at the engineering event. What, 2 weeks ago? Was that right? Two Tuesdays or last Tuesday? Was that last Tuesday?
Yeah.
It was last Tuesday, right? So I'll show you what these guys did. Did a pretty good job. And this photo site we're using is Tumblr, by the way. It's a really nice photo site to use. But let me show you. Let me go into this frame to bring it out a little nicer. This frame and new tab. There we go. So let's look at some of these photos you guys took. Really good job. And if you've never seen our robotics here, I had Dester the robot here, and I had the QB here as well. But they had the robotics we have downstairs, like serving beer and wine, which I believe this is the first time I've seen RBC serve wine. They actually had a room, right? Was it the FAR room that way, right? Yeah, it was the FAR room, right? The W141. They actually had wine they were serving people, which I didn't think we could do that, but I didn't say anything. I'm not in charge. This was a good shot, I thought. You guys were on the stairwell. Did you take this one? Yeah. On the stairwell, looking down at the tables as people came in the WTC. It's a really good angle of people talking and mingling amongst one another. This was Jason's Deli, and the guy's name serving was Jason, but he had no correlation to the actual company, except he was an employee there. But his name was Jason. Really nice guy. Good shot. And let's go back. That was the first set, looks like. Let's go to this set. Oh, there's Dester. And, I had Jim Ferrone, which is a disabled student that remotes into my anthropology class once a week. He uses this little device here. I've had it in the classroom. He connected to people. What's funny about Jim was I just asked him like 10 minutes before the event started, hey, Jim, can you connect for a little bit? I thought like 10 minutes. He was on for an hour and a half. He talked to everybody that came by the table. And what's funny was like this kid here, he was looking at Dester, and then Jim started talking to him, and he looked at Jim like, who are you? Because he was just chatting away. And so Jim was kind of scaring people, I think, a little bit as they came by. But he had fun with it. He had a good time. This is another good shot of the engineering area down where we have a robotics, CAD, and engineering folks down there. And they had a lot of high school students. Like they had a lot of gaming apparatus, robotics for high schoolers, which I thought was cool. And they were doing little robots here they were controlling with the remote control. And this was the guy next to me. I actually had him as a student for a couple of years. And he was showing a little Belkin product that you can plug in your house and plug in any device. And then you can use an app for an iPhone or Droid to control your lights from wherever. And then what's cool about it, it also showed you the analytics of that device. So it showed you how much power it used and stuff. And then these guys were doing, what's it, virtual reality, I think? The virtual reality with the Galaxy phone. So anyway, good job on the photos. Excellent. So if you have any questions, come up and see me about the panoramic. Otherwise, enjoy your spring break and see everybody in 2 weeks. And remember Friday's extension on the restoration photos. Oh, and Vanita, would you do me a favor and shoot me an email on what we talked about?